Welcome back to JMuddy93. I am Jeremy Warner. So today what we are doing is we have a minor overhaul of my rear differential. Now a lot of y'all know I've had my Can Am Outlander 850xmr for at least 5 years. I bought it when it was brand new, and really right now I intend on keeping my 850xmr. But recently, I don't know how much you can see it on camera, but recently I have a little bit of play in my rear differential, so I think it is actually time to do some maintenance to it. So anyhow, let's get started. Okay, so I just got back from my dealer after getting a whole bunch of parts ordered, but this year I have actually had to replace more pinion seals than anything else. But for the past few years, I have been riding with this much play in the rear diff. I don't know how much it's showing on camera. Maybe if I turn it sideways. But there's not a lot of play in the rear diff. In fact, it's actually going up and down a little bit. So I feel right now is actually the best time to actually replace the pinion bearing and the needle bearing inside the differential itself. So anyhow, when I drained all the gear oil out of it, it actually came out a little milky. So I think we got to do some cleaning here. So anyhow, I'm going to do some of this cleaning, and then when we get back, we'll start tearing it apart. Alright, so to give you a general idea, these bearings here actually really don't feel that bad. In fact, I actually have a new gear over here, which, FYI, when I bought everything, the intention, it was a lot cheaper for me to actually buy a new ring and pinion versus actually buying everything else when it comes to bearings. In fact, these bearings here have just as much play as the bearings on the old diff. So I don't think we're going to replace the bearings or the races on them. In fact, you put a new race on this side, and as you can see, there's practically no play in that bearing. So now I'm going to pull the pinion off, and as you can see, I actually have like absolutely no play at all, and I think it's just phenomenal that I don't have any teeth missing. You know, this bearing's actually good. In fact, I'll do the same test again. Put a bearing race on it, and as you can see, the bearings actually move nice and smoothly. So anyhow, that's not why we're really here. What we're really here to do is we're here to replace and basically fix the play that's in our pinion. So to give you an idea, the bearing spins all right. We just have a little back and forth movement. So really, honestly, the pinion itself has some bad bearings here that honestly need to be replaced. Alright, so right here you actually want to take like a 1/16 drill bit and drill it into your pinion seal. That way you can actually fit a tiny screw into the pinion seal itself but you also want to do it along the edge of the rear diff. That way you can actually take a pry bar and pry up onto the pinion seal, and then you can actually use the rear diff casing as like leverage to pop the pinion seal right on out. All right, got that. This time, we'll try a little bit closer to the edge of the seal itself. Maybe it'll actually pop off for once. Our hammer, and let's try it again. Whew. There we go. There's the inside of our pinion. Okay, so we're back, and I actually had to wait a few weeks to get a few special tools. I don't exactly have everything because of the COVID rules and everything else. So right here, I'll take it out of the box, is our Backlash gauge. And that actually goes onto the end of the diff here. There's screws inside the bag that attach onto the diff. And the part number for the Backlash gauge is 529035665. Again, it is 529035665. That's the tool that you want to measure backlash if you actually have the proper gauges. And also too, I have the spanner nut socket, and that part number, try to see if the camera will show it, is 529036302. Again, it is 529036302. So also too, when you get this socket, the coating kind of makes it a little bit big. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to shave down the sides of the socket there on the tips there. And then you're also going to have to shave this here. So then that way you actually can get your socket in there. And this socket goes into the nut that's around the pinion itself. So what you're going to do, take it, slide it down. Then, let's see, get my ratchet here. Now listen to this instruction very importantly. You want to actually be going righty-tighty, because righty-tighty on this nut is actually lefty-loosey. So, ooh, Houston, we have a problem. Okay, so we're back. So I did not know where you stick in your ratchet or breaker bar or whatever, but you also need to shave that out, and that's why we ran into an issue. Also, you want to shave off your ends. Well, you want to shave down your ends, not shave them off. But anyhow, you'll just take this in, stick it in there. Now, this is a reverse thread. I repeat, reverse thread, left hand, only nut. And shoot, I might have to put it on the workbench. It's kind of fighting a little. Oh. All right, so let's see. Oh, there we go. Impact got her out. So let's get her on the workbench and see what we're dealing with. Okay, so we're back. And this, FYI, just all came out as one. And really, to be honest, didn't think it was going to come out like that. But as you can see, my bearings here, they're actually loose. So it's actually time to replace those. And over here, I got a new pinion along with a brand new ring gear. So in this situation, I know my ring gear really didn't have any play, so we're gonna leave that alone. So in the meantime, I'm going to clean all of this dirt out and we'll be back. What I used here was a slide hammer to remove the needle bearing. All right, so I got the diff cleaned up and everything. It's real nice and shiny, including this part here. But the next part I have to do, now that I took the old needle bearing out, which you see here, I got to shove in the new needle bearing into that spot right there. Now, we have to be really super careful when it comes to handling this needle bearing here, because the last thing you want is needles jumping all over the damn place. So I'm just going to take this here and just slide that out. So then it's partially sticking in there. And I'm just going to go ahead and pack the inside of this needle bearing. Basically, I'm going to pound the living snot out of it with bearing grease. And the one reason why you want to do that is so then you don't have all these tiny little needles, because note this, there's no cage to actually keep the needles inside the bearing here. So I'm just going to work at packing the crap out of these needles here. Not even going to roll them. You're just going to pack them down in there. Then also too, I'm going to put a little grease around the outside, because I got to wipe my finger off. I'm going to gently set that down. Next, I'll lift this up. And that spot there where the needle bearing's supposed to go, my hand's kind of just blocking the space. But I shoved some grease down into that hole there. So next step in this process is they give you this sleeve here. That mainly goes on the pinion, but the pinion already the new pinion actually has a sleeve on there. So this actually makes it a lot easier for my install. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to place it in here. Also too, take some of this grease that's on the outside, put it through on the other side. And don't do what I just did. But sleeve doesn't want to stay in there. Okay. I might try something else, because this sleeve wants to just slide right out. And the last thing I want are needles all over the place. So I'm just going to take the plastic sleeve and just slide it in there. Try to get this even here. Wipe my hands off. All right, so I found a 19mm, and I'm just going to place it right over here. I'm just going to gently tap it in. Right now I'm just trying to make it straight. Which, it looks pretty straight. All right. I got that started. So now I'm just going to put this in a time lapse. Make this 10 times quicker for you guys. That way it doesn't bore you to death. All right, so we got the needle bearing in. Next, we got to put in those shims and this this pinion right here. All right, so the next step in the process, I'm just going to show one. It says to apply XPS grease. In my situation, I'm using synthetic bearing grease around the race and the axle seals that come outside the diff here. That way it actually helps seals it up. And once you have that all applied, you install your new ring gear. All right, so one other thing I will do is I'm going to take some Never Sees here, and I'm just going to brush the teeth of the ring gear. That way I know exactly where it's hitting. And then I'll just take the ring gear and place it into its new home. Then I'll take the cover here. Actually, the cover, before I put it on, I'll just take a little grease here. And just go around the edge, because you really want that seal nice and fresh and lubricated. Try to figure out where exactly the holes line up. Eesh. That doesn't seem right. There we go. Once you get these holes lined up, I'll just take my rubber mallet, gently hammer it down. Take the screws here. Just put them in by hand for now. Oops, wrong one. Okay, so right here you can actually see that the pinion is actually hitting everything fully with the Never Sees here, and then also you see all the Never Sees covered on the pinion. We're pretty much just going to leave that there. And also too, we did gauge with the caliper. We actually did this more of off camera because it was something that, you either know or you don't know. And in this case, we actually do know because it measures in thousandths, and we were actually around 5 thousandths, and the pinion wasn't really moving. Okay, so what I've done here is I just shoved an axle on the end, set the torque wrench up for 120 foot-pounds because mine could not really get up to 130 pounds. In spec, it's either plus or minus 11. So, sometimes it doesn't work on the first try, so that's all right. There we go. All right, so once you have everything done, you measure your backlash, spin it, which everything feels nice and tight. Now you can finally install your pinion seal here, which I just shove a little bit of lube on the edge here. And then what I also like to do is shove a little bit on the new seal itself. And then just gently press down. And then, since I'm putting a brand new drive shaft in here, I want to grease everything up. Alright, so that concludes this video. If you can, please like and subscribe, and I would greatly appreciate it. Hope you all have a great day.